Good morning, class. I'm here to talk about alternative energy and why it is a viable and more effective use than fossil fuels. So, since the dawn of the modern era, mankind has been using fossil fuels to fuel human ingenuity, such as cars, machines, planes, boats, etc., etc. And so, these can lead to a lot of problems, such as carbon dioxide emissions and pollutions leading to air quality. And so, why I believe that alternative energy sources such as wind, solar, geothermal, nuclear, and water energy are all effective is because they have stable pricing, they have continual availability of these sources of energy, and they have large-scale job creation. So on to my first point, that it has stable pricing. We look at the law of economics between supply and demand. So by looking at a common product such as gasoline for our cars, we can see that gasoline is not renewable, that it is harvested from the ground and it is refined into the form that we can put into our cars. So because of the supply being continuously diminished without any source of adding onto the supply, the prices of the usage of this gasoline continues to rise. Such as in 1969, the price of gasoline per 1 gallon was $1.70, and in 2018, the price has risen to an average about $3.78 per gallon. However, if we look at using electricity to power our cars, the price of 1 kilowatt went from 9.7 cents per kilowatt hour in 1969 to 8.81 cents in 2016, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. So as you can see, it'll be a lot cheaper for you. And on to my second point, where there's a continuous amount of availability for getting this energy, is that if we look at the state of California, it receives about an average of 179 to 292 days of quote unquote sunny days, but that only accounts for about 50 to 80% of the year. That we still have around 50 to 20% of the year that's most likely dark and rainy. So on those days, we can look towards hydroelectricity. And by looking at rain, this rain will fill up lakes and rivers, which we can harness the kinetic energy from the flowing rivers to power electricity. This is being done in China, Canada, Brazil, and the United States. However, 2/3 of the world's population, or 2/3 of the world's land still has potential in this hydroelectric power. Okay, so there may not be a lot of lakes and rivers in the U.S., but there are still vast amounts of plots of land where we can put low-cost and zero-emission wind turbines. And according to Tom Kieran, the CEO of American Wind Energy Association, he states that American wind power is well on its way to supplying 20% of U.S. electricity by 2030. And on to my last point, which is large-scale job creation. So in order to effectively harness these sources of energy, we would need to build large industrial plants such as the Hoover Dam in Nevada. And because of this, 9.8 million people are now employed in the renewable energy industry, including a projected of 3 million in the booming photovoltaic solar sector that's going to be projected to be added recently. And in 2016, solar energy was seen to be creating jobs at 17%, or 17 times the rate of the economy, according to Inside Climate News. So to conclude, this is why I believe that alternative energy sources can effectively completely replace fossil fuels in the near future.
Right, the proposition at the beginning, Bryce, is viable and more effective than fossil fuels. So you got multiple claims there. At the end of the speech, I think you have the real proposition that says that they can effectively replace fossil fuels in the near future. That, I think, needs to be your proposition. So the end statement ought to be someplace at the beginning. Don't want to give you too much of a hard time, but it's not morning, so saying good morning is a strange greeting. Just a thought, that happens. Believe me, I've made those kinds of mistakes too, just pointing it out. There's a preview of the supporting structure, so that's okay, and you signpost those things at the beginning. The issue of stable pricing, I think you need to show that there's more volatility in the fossil fuel market. You simply show a steady growth, and I'm not even sure that you get as much out of the steady growth as you could. I know for a fact that in 1969, gas wasn't $1.70 a gallon. In 1969, you'd have been paying 28 cents a gallon at best. When I first started driving in 1973, I was paying 32 cents a gallon, and when it went up because the oil prices all the way to 70 cents a gallon, I was infuriated. So your data is problematic here, and I don't know where it came from. It sounds like it's inaccurate at the beginning, and if I'm in the audience, which I am, and I'm listening to this, and I'm going, well, where the hell did that come from? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. At least if you could tell me where it came from and why you believe that to be true, then I could say, well, he's just quoting something that's made a mistake, as opposed to he's just making a random guess. And by the way, the other thing that you want to talk about on stability is the volatility of the prices, because the prices do go up and down on a regular basis. Demand changes, supplies alter, you have international incidents that might limit our access to some of these fossil fuels. It seems like you could get a lot more out of that first point than you get, and you basically just say, well, fossil fuel costs go up. I don't know that hydroelectric energy prices never go up, or that solar energy prices never go up, or that wind power energy never goes up, because I don't really get much information on that. There was one statistic that talked about what the comparable price for electricity is, and that's about as far as it went on that. There is some information that gets source citations on it, like we had the specific source for this estimate about wind power by 2030. There's some information from this U.S. Energy Administration that you mentioned. That's okay. But then there's some other things that just don't get a source citation on them, and you want to be more consistent about that. Like I said, I thought at the end of the speech your proposition was a little bit clearer than it was at the beginning of the speech. That would have been a good way to start. Okay, thank you.